You know what that means. It's time to talk NASCAR on Prime Sports Network. And Eric Smith, of course, joining me once again as we get a chance to recap a playoff race and preview playoff race number 2. How's it going, Eric?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, it feels weird. It feels like my days are all thrown off with Monday being Labor Day, and it feels like, did we race yesterday? When did we race? So yeah, been crazy, but we're already going to the second playoff race, so it's getting keeps heating up.
Yeah, and you know what? It was a good race. There was a lot going on. We talked about the possibility of, I mean, who knows? As far as look, what's happened is that this is one of those tracks that I think it's benefited with the change with the new car. You know, I think and look, it's still hard to pass. There's no question about that. It's ridiculously still hard to pass, and it really wouldn't have mattered if one of 3 cars or 4 cars, let's say if Hamlin, Harvick, or Reddick would have come out first on the restart with 30 laps to go, they would have won the race. I mean, So Larson got very lucky. He was a top 5 car without a doubt. I don't think he was the fastest. I'd probably put him at 3rd maybe, but you know, that's NASCAR. That's how it works. And we'll talk about how he got the break, but still, you know, Larson's back in the driver's seat, I guess you can say, because all of a sudden it only took one race. I mean, we've had Martin Truex Jr. as the odds-on favorite for months, and it takes one race, and it's back to Kyle Larson.
Yep, I think it's what I've talked over the years with IndyCar with Scott Dixon when he talks about how there's races he probably should have won that he didn't, and races he probably won that he shouldn't have won. And I think over the years, we talked about this last week, that there's plenty of chances that Kyle Larson probably should have won at Darlington by now. But it was hard to pick him because in those races, he, at the end of the day, didn't win. And then this past Sunday, as you said, I don't think he had the best car. Denny Hamlin had the best car. I think you could say Christopher Bell had a fast car. The Toyotas, I mean, they led like 177, 180, a crazy amount of laps. By far the best manufacturer there was. But Chevy won because they all self-destructed. And I think that's the good and bad of a kind of a spec series per se. I know it's not fully spec, but when all the cars are pretty much equal, and the drivers are all good. I mean, it's nothing like, not saying Larson's a bad driver. He had a good car. He's a good driver. When you put him in a position where clean air and track position up front, it's hard to pass drivers like that when your car is equally as good as his. So I think that's not shocking. We talked about this last week with how Darlington and have to ride around the wall and the dirt guys, Larson, Reddick, Christopher Bell led a lot of laps early. The reason they're good there is they can hang it out along the top of the wall or the top of the banking near the wall. And I don't think it's a fluke that the top 2 drivers at the end of the race was Larson and Reddick, the guys that love the high line. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's just whoever had that track position in the end. I mean, it didn't matter late race caution or not. I mean, it's Darlington, you're going to pit for tires, and it was whoever's going to be leading was the guy that was going to be on top and at the end, and that's how we saw it. Plus, I think it goes to show with what we talked about last week too, with the restarts with Larson and Chastain at the end of the spring race, and why they were so aggressive on each other was because of that exact reason. Once you get to the front and you got the clean air, it's hard to get back by. So I thought Larson was flawless at the end. I mean, you mentioned he hit the wall probably 20 times, he said, over the course of the race, and he's laying it all out there, but he was precise enough not to mess it up in the heat of the battle at the very end with what was at stake. He was focused, laser focused, dialed it in, and he's in the round of 12. And we talked about that too last week in our playoff preview. Is I thought he would make it to the round of 12. It's that round is where I feel like could be troublesome for him. So his odds decreased. I don't think it's going to get any lower. I think you got to capitalize all you can with him, because if he gets past the round of 12, which you got Talladega and the Roval in there, all bets are off, because Homestead's in the round of 8, and we just saw what he just did at Darlington.
Yeah, so he's down now to 3-1 to win the championship. And Truex is the third choice now at 5-1. Hamlin remains a pretty decent play at 6-1. Buescher finally getting respect, down to 12-1. And then you have some pretty good bargains, from 16-1 all the way to 35-1 with Kevin Harvick. So I
Yeah.
can't believe Kevin Harvick's odds went up after the way that race ended. I mean,
Yeah.
hello? I mean, because of a fluky situation, Harvick probably would have won, and you're putting his odds the other way?
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at Daytona, too. He was in the running to win in the end there and got kind of pushed aside at the end of the draft. But we very well could be talking about 2 straight wins for Kevin Harvick going into Kansas this weekend if things went the plan. It's not like he's not had a car capable of winning. And as I keep saying, Phoenix is the championship round, and he was leading with 10 to go out of his dealing with some Harrison Burton spun. So 35-1 and went backwards when, in my opinion, nothing changed on his end. I feel like he's just as good as he was a few weeks ago, if not better. Granted, this weekend, I know we'll get into his odds this weekend. Is he going to win? I don't necessarily think he'll win, but he's a top 10 guy. And if he does that again, and we know what he can do at Bristol, Kevin Harvick's in the round of 12.
Okay,
and all he
we'll
just has
take
to do is it's like NCAA tournament, just survive in advance. Unfortunately, they had a hiccup, and it wasn't their doing.
Yeah,
it was just bad luck on Sunday night, and that's the only reason that he, at the very worst, would have finished probably second. Yeah. I think him and Hamlin probably had the 2 quickest cars at the end. They should have won.
Was that the last pit stop?
I think caution? It was like the second. Yeah, it was it wasn't the last caution. It was one of the
that was the last. But that was they didn't have to pit again.
The last pit stop. Yeah.
Okay.
It would have been.
So the chances are Kevin Harvick probably wins the race because he's going to start off first, and okay.
Yep.
So, let's take a look at some of that now. Let's see here. Okay. So first, we're going to take a look at what started Denny Hamlin's problems. So, not good for Denny Hamlin.
No, and as you can see, there's 95 to go. The race was his at this point. I mean, look at the gap he's got on Harvick. Those guys in front were still going to pit, and then he pits again because of what he thought was a loose wheel. They never found whether it was a loose wheel. They don't want to doubt him, but they never did. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I guess it could be, but we trust his judgment. But they never did fully say whether that thing was truly loose or not. And they said just the loads of Darlington could do that to a car. And, I mean, he swept both stages, and if I'm not mistaken, was it 177 laps led up into that
Correct.
point? And you look at 93 to go. That race was his until that moment, but that's the playoffs. That's why you got to be perfect. I mean, he's got that cushion, but he doesn't have many mulligans left. So he got his one there, but that's the thing's going to happen. And here's another one to Harvick. It's the same dealing.
The answer's no to that because on the onboard.
What was happening here was, like we've talked about, Kevin Harvick was doing the undercut. He was running second, as you can see, to Reddick. And what a lot of people may not realize is teams monitor other teams' scanners. So they try to figure out what they're doing, what they're talking about. And so Ronnie Childers, Kevin Harvick's crew chief, he didn't want to call him down pit road until the last minute, because if he said, hey, I need you to pit on lap X, or hey, 2 more laps, then we're going to pit, then Reddick would hear that, or his crew guys, whoever's monitoring would hear it, report to his crew chief, hey, Kevin Harvick's pitting at this lap. We need to cover that. So they waited till the last minute to tell him. Well, as I said, they're monitoring his radio. So they heard it, relayed on to Reddick. Reddick, hey, Kevin Harvick's pitting, duck down pit road. Well, he tried to duck, but it was too late. Harvick was already there. And so when he realized that, he was going to miss that commitment line, which would have been a penalty. So he came back up, not realizing Ryan Newman was already up there. And Newman spun, trying to avoid Tyler Reddick. He didn't want to wreck into him. And it was just as you can see right here, Kevin Harvick, he's already coming down pit road. He's already committed. And that was their plan. And so as you see the lights come on and he's not to pit road yet, he didn't make it. The problem is you can't come down pit road and service your car when the pits are closed. And right now the pits are closed. There's a caution. You see the spinning car right there. So it's completely bad luck. They try to work. And the reason, too, I should say, you want to do this is it's called the undercut. If you pit before the car is in front of you, naturally you're going to be much quicker on newer tires than you are at the end of a run on older tires. So if you come out in clean air and you clock off a couple quick laps and that car in the front still has to pit, you're going to cycle ahead of him. And that's what Kevin Harvick was going for right here. He was going to cycle in front of Reddick. That's why Reddick would want to cover him and pit when he did. And he just did it too late. Reddick avoids the penalty because he didn't come down pit road. Harvick came down pit road. And the only reason they pit, because some people might ask, well, why would you pit then? You already knew the pits were closed. Well, they didn't. It was such bang, bang in that heat of the moment. They didn't know at that time. So they thought, we're already on pit road. We might as well pit because if we did beat the lights, we're going to have that advantage anyways from what we wanted. If we don't, then we're still going to be in the back. So let's just go ahead and pit now, which the penalty is you got to go to the rear end of the longest line. So he was already in the back. It was just a misfortune, and it was just bad luck. It was the right strategy call, but it just went awry when Reddick tried to cover it and caused the caution, and it was all over from there. And that's what set up a Reddick and Kyle Larson battle, because Kyle Larson just had to sit there and capitalize with it, and their final pit stop was in the lead and never looked back.
Yeah. Before we get into that, let's just take a look at the playoff standings. So, of course, Larson's up front. Reddick is now in a good position after one race. By the way, is that like a third runner-up for Reddick at Darlington?
Yeah, we talked about that. Second or third. Yeah, he's got quite a bit. His turn's coming soon there. I mean, the way he drove at Homestead in the past, he's kind of like Larson is right now. The way they kind of started off there, the bunch of runner-ups. So I feel like his turn is coming. But yeah, those guys on the left side of the screen to me are really good position right now. A lot of them are good.
I would just, and I know he can go out there and change on a dime, but I would just be a little bit worried if I'm in this camp. Just a tiny bit, because all of it, like I said, you're cruising along for months. You're the favorite. You're the one that's going to make it work. You go to a racetrack that you should be. I mean, you were another favorite. You were a very low number to win the race last week, and you were never in contention. Never. It was a terrible night. You were lucky to be in the top 20 when it was all said and done. And so when that happens, you have to start thinking, well, yeah, but we're really good at Kansas, right? Yeah, but you were really good at Darlington. So we talked last week about what it would take for one of those drivers to not make it past the first round. And, well, Martin Truex Jr. basically just passed the first test in the wrong way. So its chances are he's going to be okay. He's going to get through. But, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yeah, because you know what track he's not good at? Bristol.
There
and
you
that's
go.
the next race. So that's why I mentioned with Hamlin, Truex, same way. He's out of a mulligan because they're at plus 27, plus 25. A top 10 on Sunday should be good enough. But another mistake, another loose wheel, another speeding penalty, getting caught up in somebody else's mess. That plus 25 could be plus 5. Very well it could go. And he's not good at Bristol. That could put him in. And all of a sudden, when you're the number 1 seed and now you're on the brink of elimination, you tighten up. Things happen. It seems like it's hard to stop the bleeding at that point. So that's why he needs a good run this weekend.
Yep.
Keselowski's been running better. He's pretty good at Kansas. I think that right side, Logano, not really good at Kansas. And Bubba Wallace is, Kevin Harvick is. I think you might see Stenhouse and McDowell. They're not great at Kansas. I think McDowell's had 24 or so starts there, and
he's in trouble.
Doesn't even have a top 10 finish. So I think both of them are going to be in trouble. Bell needs to clean it up. Another issue for them. I think Bubba and Harvick, they could make a case they could be on the other side of the cut line and leave in Kansas. The problem is who you're going to bump out. I think that's why this thing's so tight. I think it's going to make Bristol all that much better. I mean, Blaney's not great at Kansas, but 16 points would be a lot to lose in 1 week.
Who's not good at Bristol out of the drivers between Truex and Bell?
Chastain.
Truex, you said one.
Truex. Kyle's great there. Keselowski's great there.
Blaney's good there.
He leads a lot of laps. He hasn't won, but he leads a lot of laps. Chastain's not great there.
Logano's good.
He's one. Yep.
Bell
should be good, but being a Toyota, he was great there in the Xfinity Series. He's never won a Cup race there, but being a Toyota's usually typically pretty good there. So
maybe Truex and Chastain. Maybe those are the two that
I think
better make sure they don't have any early issues on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you better. You better actually. If you, I'm minimizing this, so I know you guys can still see me. I'm looking at.
No, we can't see you.
You can't see me.
No.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
I can't see you if you want me to.
Well, I just minimized it because I have Bristol stats right here. For next
all right.
week.
Well, hold on. Let's let me switch on over back. Let's switch back. Where are we? There we are. Hold on a second.
Which you don't have to see me. I can read the stats.
No, well,
I've got them on
too late. So go ahead. What were you saying?
So Bell's last 3 Bristol finishes are 28th, 29th, and 4th. Short tracks this year: 6th, 4th, 16th, 6th, 29th, and 20th. So he could be in some trouble. Harvick won in 2020, runner-up 2021, 10th last year, 4 top 10 finishes, 3 of which in the top 5 on short tracks this season. So I think he's all right. I guess Kyle's not. He's got 3 top 2 finishes in his last 6 on concrete there, not counting dirt. 4 top 4 finishes his last 6. Short tracks, though, now that I look at it, he's right. These have been their kryptonite this year. He's 34th in this race last year. 4 of his last 5 finishes on short tracks, 14th or worse. So he could be in some trouble. Truex, 2 top 10 finishes in his last 19 Bristol starts. He's been 20th or worse in 14 of his last 17. So that would scare me.
There you go.
Chastain was 6th last year, but 13th or worse in 4 of his 6 short track races this season. So he hasn't been great. Blaney's got 2 career Bristol top 5s. He's been 14th or worse in 3 of his last 5 short tracks this season. Bubba, 13th, 22nd, 9th, 12th, 8th, and 12th on short tracks. So this is the week Bubba's got to get in then, because he's not been great on short tracks. He's been solid, but not great. And he's not been too great at Bristol in the past. So yeah, I'd say those are some guys that Larson can win, Hamlin can win, Harvick can win. Logano was 27th last year, but he's got 7 top 10s in his last 12 at Bristol, so he should be all right. Plus, he's been good on short tracks this year.
Yeah.
Buescher won there last year. Keselowski should have won. So yeah, I think they're those would be the guys that I think McDowell, Stenhouse, Bubba, if he doesn't do something this week, and Chastain may be your 4 on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Things go the way that we could.
I want to talk a little bit more about what happened to Harvick. Before we do that, I just want to go over 2 separate comments from one of our viewers. You, of course, can keep the comments here on this channel description area, or you can also talk with us and ask us any questions you like during the week on our Discord channel, and we have the link in the description area for that as well to join. Wayne Bilo wanted to let us know that that's how you pronounce his last name. So I was saying Billo, but he said it's Bilo. Loved the episode, and he said, I did win the week in our church pool. Oh, by the way, church group is at a local bar. We meet every Sunday morning. What's up with that?
Bible study and beer? Is that what that is?
I don't know.
Bible study, beer, and race cars. So
and it almost sounded like an invitation. Oh, yeah. I don't think I'll be. Well, I have no idea. That's right. Wait, is Wayne the one who lives in Canada? I forget.
No, they're running all together. There's one that lives in Canada, and one that lives too far from you.
Yes, Wayne's from Canada.
That's right.
So I won't be doing that since he said he wasn't in Vancouver. And then he made another comment about a day or two later. Good morning, my friends. I think this was after the race day post. Just to let you know, I did win the week, thanks to your great knowledge. So
I'm glad it's cashing in. Hopefully, we help you out this week too. I mean, when we get into it, there's not many drivers I feel that can win this week anyway. So I think we can hammer down somebody here.
All right. So yeah, I just think that what happened to Harvick is something that. Well, first, I need you to give me the pro and the con, because obviously the con is what we saw. What happened? We saw the race was dictated by a rule that just to the average fan is like, really? I mean, this is how we're going to take Kevin Harvick's chance of winning because of that? Isn't there something that can happen to ensure that doesn't happen? Is there a way to make sure that something as fluky as that, like, at least give them the opportunity to screw up? Don't let it be just complete and utter luck. Almost like a super speedway race. That's basically what it was. It was luck. We didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. And is that the way we want races to be dictated? So what would you say as far as, the pro of why the rule is the rule?
As far as the pits being closed and all that, safety, because you don't want a bunch of guys, if a caution comes out, come flying down, doing pit stops or avoiding a crash. And because a lot of times you can, to a certain threshold, the pit road's speeding penalties under caution. If you come down pit road to avoid a caution, it's not like you have to abide by, like, hey, I'm not pitting. I've got to come through that pit road to avoid that crash, and they could come flying through there. So you don't. So that would be a pro, is you don't want anybody getting hurt safety wise. But granted, back in the day, there used to be a pit road speed limit anyways. Those guys would come flying through anyways. So I get the pros for that. An easy way to avoid it, but there's no way you can police this anymore, is just don't let other teams monitor what the other teams are doing on the radio, because that wouldn't happen if Reddick wasn't eavesdropping, or not Reddick personally, his team wasn't eavesdropping on what Kevin Harvick was doing.
Okay. Yes. Now that's definitely a good topic, because that we all know why they do it for the fans. I get it. And okay, but there has got to be some way that they could think about that, because that shouldn't happen. That's got to be, if we're going to do this for the fans, and everybody's going to benefit from this. Everyone. This is a financial benefit, because if we make money from it, it trickles down to you guys. You're going to make money from it. There's got to be a way to make sure that they can't, like you said, they can't listen. There has to be. It's got to be something they can do.
That's the whole strategy, because that costs the strategy, because that'd be a strategy move that would have been fun to watch, to see Harvick cycle to the lead. But when they're listening to him, it's just like that. Granted, anybody can buy a scanner and listen to the radio, so I can see where it'd be hard to police. The other thing now is, which again, it starts getting chaotic, is you start having, we've heard it before, code words. There's a code word when to pit. And you could be having a normal conversation like we're having, but you
could also have a very stiff fine.
Yeah.
Very stiff. Like if we catch you using information by listening to someone else on a scanner, you're getting the worst penalty that we can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even okay, which again, I hate to do this because fans got to listen, but I mean, you can't do that in football. There's coaches that are calling plays through headsets to the sidelines, and other teams can't listen to it. Yeah. There's a way to maybe scramble it to there's got to be some way that their frequency. Again, I'm okay with I like it as part of the media, or even if I'm a fan of the stands, to listen to what's going on with their scanners. But I'm also okay if they need to outlaw that.
Well, isn't there a way, like you were just about to say, isn't there a way to where they can go, okay, now we're getting to some stuff that's really, really secretive. We're going to change the channel, and we're going to put it on a channel that is completely only dedicated to us.
They do have multiple channels But a lot of times those still get out. Like I know a lot of times I have secondary and some of them have third different channels they go to. And I've got every frequency to all of them. I can, because they're switching. Because a lot of times, like the crew chief will have a dedicated channel to the spotter where if they don't want to bother the driver, they could go to that channel and talk directly with each other where the driver's not hearing it. Or maybe the spotter can talk to the driver on a separate channel to where it's not interfering. There's a bunch of different channels, but I do wish there was a way they can communicate without, because that's what you get. Because if at the end of the day, if Reddick's not eavesdropping, that caution doesn't happen. Because Harvick can duck down pit road and he doesn't try to duck down last second and cause an issue. The only reason he ducked down was because he was told Harvick was coming. But my other thing you could do is maybe you have to hit the pit commitment earlier than that. Like kind of Atlanta, you have to pit at the end of the backstretch going to turn 3. That's your commitment line. I could see you could do that because then once you're coming in, Reddick could already be ahead. Like he's already passed that line by the time you come in. So there's a fine line, but it's all predicated by it's eavesdropping. I'll just call it that. It's eavesdropping. I don't go to a football game and my Colts play the Jaguars this week, and I'll just use that as an example and expect the Jaguars to be eavesdropping on what headsets of what the Colts are calling plays into. And that's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they're listening to their playbook.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to pit. Oh, hey, they said they're going to pit. So why don't you pit? That'd be like, hey, they're going to run the ball. They're running this direction. So you want to defend it this way. That's essentially what he was doing. He was defending Kevin Harvick's play call. And I don't think that's right. I don't like it. I don't like anything.
Is there a way, maybe if they keep all this stuff, could they do something like, again, like they do in other sporting events, do something, all right, you get like if this happens, you get a chance like, how, like instant replay, we're going to give you one chance where you're going to be able to like mulligan, where in a situation, we're going to give you 3 or 5 situations where you can use it. And this is one of them. And you get one erase. And that would be one where they would say, okay, obviously we didn't want to get stuck here. We did it for safety reasons, whatever. So we're going to use it. Okay, you used it up. That's it. Something like that. I mean,
yeah, there's something's got to be done because it just feels like cheating at the end of the day, even though it's not. But it just feels blatant, like you're listening to their playbook. They admitted it. And Harvick's guys knew, hey, they're listening to us. And it's common. A lot of people don't realize it, but there's usually a dedicated – you see all these people on pit boxes. A lot of times, they're monitoring. They have a scanner too. We could do it as fans. We could sit there and listen to what they're saying, that they're on the pit box listening to what they're – hey, you're battling Logano for the lead. Can you listen – what are they talking about on their scanner? That's their job. They're monitoring other teams. And they're reporting back to the crew.
Yeah, that's not right.
It just seems I just can't imagine. I mean, I don't like the New England Patriots because I'm a Colts fan, so that there's that rivalry there. But didn't they get in trouble for stealing other people's plays?
Video.
Video. They're video. I mean,
videotaping practice. Yeah.
Isn't this kind of going down that same realm? You're literally listening to what the other team's doing.
That's the WWE part of NASCAR that we've talked enough about over the last few years that they just got to get that stink off, or it just doesn't smell good. It just doesn't. It's
hard to police. A lot of people don't realize this too. I've seen it happen. I've heard about it happen. I got firsthand knowledge of it happening because the garages are wide open. It's not like any other stick and ball sport where the locker room's a locker room. That there's people, race fans, that get paid to walk around and take pictures of cars. And the teams will pay for the pictures of the race. Because that's why a lot of times you see race, like the cars are covered in certain areas, but race fans seem to kind of get pictures, or I'm going to get a picture with this car or this driver. And, well, teams might pay a plainclothes person to go and get pictures of that and give them hot passes or money or meet and greets for them to take pictures and give it back to them so they could see what that car is doing.
Come on.
And that's a thing. I know somebody that for an Indy that during an autograph session that was pulled aside and said, hey, you got a nice camera. How about I give you a garage pass to go back there right now? Whose autograph do you want? Oh, I want this guy's. All right, I'll go get his autograph. And I'll let you personally meet him when this is done. If you could go back there right now and as opposed as a race fan, to just take pictures of cars and give them to me when you're done. And they do that.
Wow.
So that's
Not
how
good.
far this has gotten. Yeah. So there's not a lot of secrets in the sport that you can do, and listening to other people's scanners. Right now, it's fair, although as foul as we think it is. But that would be the big change that I would say that could be done, is somehow policing that. I don't know how.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun one of these days when we come up with, during the off seasons, we're coming up with these, here are our top, 20 things that we would do to change NASCAR to make it better. That's coming, because we have forgotten more ideas of how to make it better than I could even imagine. So
we got to think too. People talk about, well, back in the old days, they didn't do this or this was better. We got to think like this technology wasn't available back in the day. They'd have pit boards, or they didn't. Not everybody had scanners available that you could listen to where you could scramble. Now it's just all out. I mean, I could listen to it on my app on my phone and not even be at the racetrack anymore. I could listen to everybody's scanner. So that's how far it's come, and that's the technology factors. It happens all the time. You just don't hear about it. But I wish it didn't. I wish because that'd be a different strategy game that would have been there for the taking that we could have talked about. But it just was negated because he countered his pit stop because he knew it was coming.
And that could end up being what makes or breaks my picks revenue for the year, because I had, I think, about close to $600 would have came my way if Harvick would have won.
Yep.
And instead, because Larson won, I lost $200. So that was an $800 swing. I went from being whatever I am, 500 out, to being, I would have been in. I would have been plus. So if I don't ever get it back, this is going to be the race that does it, because now we're investing $200 per race.
Yeah.
So this it's getting. But the only thing that came out of it good was the fact that my top 3 fantasy drivers finished first, second, and third, and Chastain finished 5th.
Yeah.
I picked the perfect
your
week.
fantasy team. Yeah, your fantasy team took the swing. So it was damned if you do, damned if you don't on that one, because one of them you're good and the other one you weren't. So
which is usually the way you want. You want to kind of, at least if I lose, I win. So, but yeah, I prefer the money myself. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So that was last week. And again, we looked at the playoffs. So we've got that. And what's now? One more thing, actually. Let's take a look. Yeah, let's take a look at this. So I'm going to go back. Here we are. There we are. So what I'm looking at here now is the. Well, you know what I'm looking at. So this is the KansasSpeedway.com website, because I wanted to make sure, because you guys can see the logo on the screen, that the logo, which, by the way, is bigger than the logo placed by Kansas Speedway. So I'm Hollywood Casino 400, and I've just made this deal with Kansas Speedway and NASCAR for advertising. And this is how they place my logo? I can't even read it. Look how small it is. Are you kidding me?
It's like the same size of the Cup Series graphic next to it. Yeah, it made.
I can at least read this, though.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, if I didn't know what Hollywood Casino 400 was, I don't know if I'd be able to figure it out. I might be like, Hollywood 400. Forget the casino. I'd never get that. And I never get Barstool down here.
No. And if you look at it, because a entitlement sponsor costs more than a presenting sponsor. So Hollywood Casino, as you say, like, that graphic tells me nothing. I can't read it either. So they pay more money, because if you look in the middle, somebody will say, well, it says right there.
Yeah, Hollywood Casino, yes.
But they paid more money than Barstool, and it's the same font size right there.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. So, like, Barstool actually has the better deal of that, because, like, the logo, they're like, well, you can't really read the presenting sponsor in the logo anyways, but I have the same size as the title sponsor, and I paid less. So,
yes.
That's
And by the way,
yeah,
why am I making a logo if this is what you're going to do to it? I mean, I might as well just do this.
yeah.
What do I need a
And I'd
logo
rather be
for?
the presenting sponsor at that point. Like, yeah,
Or
I
what?
don't.
Yes. No, and by the way, if you're going to do this, here's an idea. Make it so when I put my cursor over it, I can click it and go to their website.
Yeah, link it. It'd be a
Holy
lot easier.
crap!
Yeah,
Ugh, that's just, it's not as bad as IndyCar. I mean, yeah, I think IndyCar is pretty bad, but not as bad as F1. F1 is the worst
oh yeah,
with
they're
their
terrible.
logos.
Yeah,
They don't even make them.
no.
No, we don't care. We don't care what they look like. I mean, do they even have any sponsors? And if they do, I don't get that. How do they not have banners and logos for to sponsor their races? So
Yeah,
yeah.
they're in their own little world.
And before we go diving in, so Denny Hamlin, okay, right here you can check out Eric's update on the contract. So we had no idea what was going to go on with Hamlin just a few weeks ago. So what's the
No.
deal?
Well, just even last week, he mentioned, and I have this story here, that he was just going to focus on the playoffs, and he's always got his own team he could fall back on, and if need be. And the thing was, Gibbs said he wanted Hamlin back. Hamlin said he wanted to come back. People were like, well, why don't you come back? But I don't get the holdup. And I'm saying, basically, if it wasn't for me having my own team, I would be able to come back. The negotiation was 23-11 for their future because their deal with Toyota was also up. Well, Hamlin would be hard to race for a Toyota team with Gibbs and have his 23-11 team be, what I heard, a possible Ford team. It just, how can he have data for both? So that wasn't going to be able to happen. So that was the holdup. They got it done. So he's back with JGR. 2311 will be a Toyota team. So it all works out in the end. Nothing ends up happening, which I'm glad, because I would hate to see another storyline or another big name driver just because of a weird contract dispute.
Yeah.
Leaves the team. So it's right back to what we thought. Not a whole lot left the silly season because Hamlin is staying put. So really the next thing is Stuart Haas and what they do. So
yeah, we're gonna have
part.
all sorts of. I don't know when we'll do it. Yeah, probably. I mean, I would guess we're probably gonna do it when the season's over.
Yeah, because there's not most of the big teams now. I mean, the only thing left to Stuart Haas is what's Eric Almirola doing. I got to think by the week, the more time goes by, he's probably not coming back. If he's not coming back, Smithfield's not coming back. And if you don't find a driver with money, you're probably going to end up maybe selling the charter. That's what I've been hearing. Those were friends of mine that had their they covered more IndyCar and IMSA stuff.
Oh, okay. So they
sure
basically they have like a membership deal?
Yeah, they were friends of mine, so I told them I'd throw them a bone, put it up there. So
what's a
I'm not sure how much they have been doing this year. So I had it up there for last year. Just never changed it, but the guy that owned it was a friend of mine.
Okay.
So I told him I'd help him out. But
they spelled parlay Ley, or is that another? Is there's two ways to spell it?
I guess, yeah, that's how they spelled it. I just took their wording, but but yeah. So yeah, silly seasons really, other than Stuart Haas, because we know Josh Berry and Chase Briscoe are back, or are going to be there next year. Past that, Penske's set. We know the Wood brothers will be with Harrison Burton. Hendrick's set. Gibbs is now set. Really, that's the big teams. 23-11 set. There's not really much more left.
Yeah, it's already set for next year, and we haven't even finished this year yet. So
no, that's
good old NASCAR.
Yeah, finally gonna. Yeah, makes more sense than all the drama that we were dealing with. Which hopefully this weekend we get another drama-free race. Because remember last year we were talking about penalties and silly season every week in the playoffs. And
yeah, that's true.
Next gen was dangerous, and people are getting concussed. And at least we came through a race weekend, and we're not talking off track stuff. We at least are talking on track playoff stuff. So to me, that's a big win in itself. We're not being distracted, and hopefully that continues this weekend and through the rest of the playoffs.
All right. Switcher back as we preview the week. And that is called, I think we all know by now, the Hollywood Casino 400. And we are going to start at the top as we always do. How many drivers did we all pick?
I didn't have many this week so I'm going to say we usually have 1 to 2 these days, so I'll say 1.
2.
2, okay.
And
1, I'd say Larson.
No.
Byron.
Why did you say Larson? You did not pick Larson.
I don't know. Well, because I'm looking at my sheet here. Well, because for covers, I have my favorites and sleep. I don't have it separated out who I chose, and this is the first name I saw.
Okay.
Byron is who I meant to say.
Yes.
He's one below him on my list. I'm going to assume it's probably Hamlin or Truex. That's the other.
You would assume wrong.
Oh, so it's then. Bubba.
No.
Reddick.
Yep.
Okay.
So, because you only have 5 and CJ only has 5. So you've completely ditched any idea of any driver above 12 to 1 winning. CJ has ditched any idea of any driver over 9 to 1 winning. And I've done pretty much the opposite, and I've ditched the top 3. Hamlin, Larson, and Truex. I just don't like the odds. And I think that middle portion, I do like the middle portion. And sort of like last week, I do kind of, and last year we saw what happened, the first 2 races, not won by playoff teams, but also meaning that from last week, I think, there's a chance that maybe we'll see a little bit of, maybe a sleeper or something that we're just not expecting. So I'm willing to give that a week to guess that could happen. A few notes. Toyota has won 3 straight at Kansas and 6 of 8. Kansas being a 1.5 mile tri-oval, which there are a handful of those, but Las Vegas is really the only track that we're going to consider as the most similar to Kansas. So when you're handicapping Kansas, just use Las Vegas. Chevy has only won 1 of 9 at Kansas. A lot of that, of course, has to do with Toyota's dominance. Pole position, very important. The last 7 winners have started in the top 10, 3 of those in the top 5, 1 pole sitter, but that was a Chevy. Kyle Larson on the pole back in 21. Of course, Hamlin won the race this year, driving a Toyota, starting 8th. So when we look at those first 3 drivers there, those 3 favorites, Hamlin, Larson, and Truex. Now you did not take Larson. CJ took them all. I took none of them. I would have taken Hamlin out of the 3, but I just 4 to 1 is just so difficult for me to take. It's just, if I was going to do that, I probably would have had to have taken $100 if I was going to do it. I would have put like half of my money on Hamlin. Yeah, okay, he won. Here's the thing. Even though he's got the 4 wins, 6 top 5s in his last 8 with 3 of those wins, it's all impressive stuff. Let's just keep in mind that he's only led 41 total laps in his last 5, and he's only led over 58 laps once at Kansas. So he hasn't dominated the track. He's been able to win races. He's been able to hover around in the top 5 a lot and maybe steal a few races late. But he hasn't been like, wow, man, he just dominates and leads laps. And so that, coupled with the last 2 race results, we always talk about, are you hot? Are you unlucky? It's just enough for me. And he just won this year. Oh, he's going to sweep. So it's just too much for me at 4 to 1. And that's why I decided to go against it. And Larson winning back-to-back, that is going to be real hard. And then you have Truex, like I just said before. I just think that he needs a really good week this week to kind of get all that ugly off of last week. and say, yeah, I'm back to being the favorite I should be. But until he does it, once again at 5-1, I just think it's enough for me to bypass those three. So that's my reasoning. What's yours?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to Gibbs and 23. So Toyota versus Hendrick, and I feel last week it came down to another intermediate track. Toyota's led a bunch of laps, and you had Byron and Larson right there to capitalize when Toyota faltered. And then you look at this track and in Vegas, and it was a Toyota and Hendrick battle since this next gen took over. And Toyota, they in the spring race a year ago, they went 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 and led 171 of 267 laps. In the fall race, 1, 2, 3, 5 led 94 of 267 laps. Which, if you combine it, they led 49.6% of all the laps at Kansas last year, 265 of 534. Then this past spring, they go 1, 4, 8, 9, and they led 148 of 267 laps. That's 55.4%. And then you look at Vegas, and you see Hendrick dominated at Vegas this past spring with between Larson and Byron. So I thought it's probably going to come down to those guys at the playoff race. I'll side with the playoff guys and say last year was a bit of a fluke. My only concern is the odds. I hate the odds. I cannot believe they put these odds the way they did. And it doesn't give you any room. And it's funny you said the $100 on Hamlin. I actually had $100 on Hamlin to win the 400 to start off with.
There you go.
And I'm like, well, if I do that, I can't really take the other guys that I feel good about. So I had to decrease it down a
that's
little
right.
bit.
Yeah.
Larson, I just left off because my whole theory, I know it's happened a few times, is winning 2 straight next-gen races it's kind of hard. It doesn't happen all that often. So that's the only reason I left Larson off. And I went with Byron because, as you see at Vegas, he won. And if you look at he led 176 laps. Larson led 63. And then if you scroll down, Hendrick went 1, 2, 3. And then you scroll down and look at the stages. I think they went 1, 2, 3 in both stages, if I'm not mistaken. Right there.
Yep.
1, 2, 7, and then 1, 2, 3. So it just seems like those guys are untouchable. It's a playoff race. So I thought those are probably your winners. It's hard to decipher through which one. I think you could kind of just throw a blanket. You can make a case for or against any one of those guys. So I just felt I might as well take them all. But the problem is when you take them all, you're kind of out of money. You're not going to win a ton. So if you can figure out maybe through the race weekend, since their odds are so low, and as you said, qualifying means a lot.
Yep.
You're probably best to wait until Saturday to see, because I don't think their odds are going to get much lower. They're already so low. It's just hard to envision Denny Hamlin going from 4-1 to 2-1. Because if he does that, then I'd punt. I mean, you don't want to go much lower, but you could get some value on a Truex or Larson or Byron or the one of the 2311 guys if they start in the top 10. I just don't see him dropping too much lower. So it might be better to gamble and wait, roll the dice, and maybe wait till after qualifying.
Well, as far as the rest, this is where I did invest basically all of my money then, because I had all of it to spend after not going with the top 3. You went with Byron, Reddick, and Wallace and stopped there. So Byron, that to me, I'm able to get 2 to 3 points more.
Yep.
He won Las Vegas, not just won it, but dominated. Okay, so we got that. 7 top 10s in his last 8 at the track, 3rd from the pole earlier this year, and has led at least 9 laps in 4 straight races, including 25 and 57. So at this track. So I thought Byron was a really good. So I invested the most money on Byron, and then you got the two 9-1 shots. I mean, we all just said no way this weekend, Bell, especially after what happened last week. For me, it's like, come on, 9-1. The way that car's going, the way the team's going, I should say, they're just something's not right. And so, look, he's got a win in Xfinity Series at the track, 5th at Vegas, but he wrecked earlier this year. Remember what happened earlier this year while he wrecked?
He was caught up. I think it was like on a restart, wasn't it? I think he got caught up in something.
Kyle also wrecked. I'm not sure if they were in the same wreck. But they were.
Yeah, I think they were. They had an issue, but as you said, a wreck. I feel like Bell's got all the speed that they're not executing.
No.
It's one thing to have speed, it's another not to execute.
9-1
again last weekend. Yeah, I thought about it because if you look, he's got his first ever Xfinity Series win was there.
Yeah.
10th, 8th, 3rd in his last 3 playoff races there. He's good there in the playoffs, but he hadn't done much. He was 5th in Vegas in this. But you look at the other intermediate tracks this season, 36th, 14th, 24th, 11th, and 23rd. That doesn't scream 9-1 to me.
No.
They're not executing.
Especially not if you're going to give us odds the way that you did with the first 4 drivers.
No, when he's 9-1 and then Byron was 7-1, and Byron on the same tracks that I just said those finishes for Bell was 1st, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 8th, 4th. Why do you have them so close together?
Good for us.
To me, Byron should exactly. So Bell was an easy punt, and I wouldn't be shocked if he goes out. If they execute, they have a shot to win, but it's just hard to pick somebody that's not executing right now at 9-1.
And Reddick,
no way.
He's going the exact opposite of the way the Bell camp is going. They're picking things up. They're getting close. Now, if you look at it, it's been since what? Road race early this year. Circuit of America, is that what it was?
Yep.
So they haven't won since then, but over the last, 8 races or so, you've got, a good amount of top 10s. You have 3 top 5s and 2 runner-ups. So, and throw in the fact that he led 23 laps this year. He led 38 laps from the pole in last year's race. And in 3 Xfinity Series races, second, 5th. And he's led 23 or more laps at this racetrack the last 3 times he's been here. So I don't see any reason to think that these two, Bell and Reddick, should be the same as far as odds. So I'll take advantage of that, and so did you.
Yeah, and think too, what's his car number? What car is he in? He's in the 45. Who won the spring race last year?
Oh.
Kurt Busch in the 45. Who won the playoff race last year? Bubba Wallace in the 45. This is the same car. So they moved Bubba to that car for the playoff points. That car won twice and swept. That car swept last year. Why not win 3 of 4 races at Kansas with the next gen with 3 different drivers in the same car? It just makes too much sense. And you get him for the same odds as Bell. So like you said, he's heating up. You go back to New Hampshire, 6th, 2nd. Richmond was 16th. He's never good there. Michigan was 30th, but remember they had a penalty while he was leading on his final pit stop. I think it was like the car was – did they leave a loose wheel or something, I think, at Michigan, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't remember.
He was leading. I know he was leading coming the final pit stops. That 30th place isn't indicative of he had a winning car. 4th at their Indy Road Course. 8th at Watkins Glen. Daytona's Daytona. I don't put any stock in that. 2nd at Darlington. So if you really look at the last month and a half – he's had a race-winning car, and now you're coming to a track that he can win at. So I think him and Byron are your 2 big steals, I would say, for their odds.
That's why I put just about half of my money on Byron and Reddick. So
and for the top 5, top 3 bets for draft, those are the ones that I would look at too. They've been that good. You could double down on them, and I like them both a lot this weekend. And a counter to throw in Bubba, since he's the next group, and we just talked about the 45 car. He won this race last year. Now he's in the playoffs. He's been running better this year.
And even though he switched cars, he still finished 4th this year.
Yep, and he was 4th at Vegas too. 7th and 5th at Darlington, 4th in the Coke 600. Just had a top 10 last week. We just said what Toyota can do and lean on laps. So for plus 1200,
look at it. Over his last 8 races, they've all been in the top 20. And 6 of them have been in the top 15. So this is the best stretch of the season for consistency for Bubba. And he's getting close.
And a lot of those and you look at those finishes, a lot of times he wasn't pushing the issue. That's why he was good with the 12th instead of 7th or 8th. It was more he was getting a bunch of stage points and just taking the top 15 and don't push him to get in any trouble. Because it did its job. It got him into the playoffs. Well, now he's got a chance to win this race. You look at his top 10s this year. Vegas, similar track. Kansas, this is the track. Darlington, that's another similar track. Charlotte, intermediate track. New Hampshire, that's a different track, but Darlington again, 7th. They're all on the same package, intermediate package. So plus 1,200, you got to go his way. And that's why I thought that those are some good steals there.
Matter of fact, if you look at it, his entire season, he's only had, I think, 1 race, California, outside where he finished outside the top 20 that wasn't like a super speedway, a road course, or a gimmicky type of setup. Otherwise, everything's in the top 20, except for California. So he's really had, and that's why he's made the playoffs, doing it without a win. But he's really had a better year, I think, than it looks. Those are a lot of racetracks that just are not typical races. So, and this week is. Okay.
Oh, and he's got to win. As we talked about his Bristol stats, I think a win this weekend would just completely help a lot of things for him going to Bristol, and they can do it. So yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do, because I think that will. I always like in the playoffs when the guy below the cut line finds a way to victory lane.
Yeah,
sure. Shakes things up. So
you can do it.
I think that'd be fun to watch. Yep.
Him or Harvick. So, and we'll get to Harvick in just a second. Kyle Busch 14-1. Nobody took him this week, not surprisingly, because once again, Kyle Busch did what we talked about at the playoff preview. And he's just hanging around. And he's just 11th.
One top 5 in his last 8.
Yeah.
I just don't know why it's going to come this week. So yeah, plus 1,400 was just a little steep to me.
And he's not even, the racetrack hasn't even been good to him lately. So, now Buescher and Chastain are 16-1. So this is where I started to gobble up some hedges, a couple of hedges here, make a few bucks on it. And the reason is because Chastain, he's been solid, a combination of 5th this year, 7th last year. If you look at last year, at Las Vegas, he finished 2nd and 3rd, leading a combined 151 laps. In his last 3 races at Kansas, 5th, 7th, 7th, 5th last week. So Chastain does seem to be coming on a little bit, slowly, quietly, but just takes that 1 week. And then Buescher at 16-1. Now, he doesn't have a great history here, but look, he doesn't have a great history at a lot of tracks. But you can't deny 11th or better in his last 6 races. 3 of those are wins, 3rd last week. So even though he doesn't have a whole lot of great stats here, again, I'm just putting money on him more. The main reason is because there's no team, there's no driver right now with more confidence through the roof than the Chris Buescher team. They are just flying high, and until that stops, that momentum stops, I'm just going to throw a few bucks on him in case he steals another win.
Yeah, because Ford scared me, because we talked about how many laps Toyota's led and what Chevy's done. They're by far the worst manufacturer on these speed tracks. But he won at Michigan, which is a speed track. Granted, he even said, I wasn't the fastest car that day. But Reddick's penalty, Truex gave up track position. It just, you kind of have to be there. And as stats have shown, Buescher's been there. And it's hard to look against them. I just didn't have any money left after taking all the top guys, or I would have taken them too. Because, I mean, you look at since Richmond, first, 11th, 7th, 1st, 3rd. Nobody's as high as he is right now. And if I was in Darlington on Sunday, I would have asked him this question. I'm shocked they didn't. He was disappointed with 3rd. He was genuinely disappointed. He said he was kind of heartbroken to finish 3rd. Can you imagine if my question with him would have been, if I would have told you back in March that you'd be heartbroken to finish 3rd in the Southern 500, what would you have said to me? Because that's how good he's run.
He was 100-1 to win the race in May. 100-1. And now he's 16-1. So
he's one that's definitely I would say he's arrived on the scene, if you want to. I don't think he's going anywhere.
And we talked about this on the last 2 of our fantasy draft shows.
Yep.
We talked about when we were talking about who, when we're getting down to those drivers, the ones at the bottom, who we're going to pick, and talked about, what? This kid's got something. He's got a career that makes him out to be better than he's shown. So there's something that's possibly there. He just has to get it done and put it together. And we just didn't think it was going to happen just in this short, condensed period of time. It's just amazing how it's gone.
Well, you got to think with Bristol's next week. And as we said earlier, he won last year. I don't see any reason why Chris Buescher doesn't come out of this round with 3 top 5 finishes. right, all 3 races in the first round.
Hey, still 12-1 to win the championship. So if you have not put money on Chris Buescher and you go to the window at 12 and say, who do I put money on? Buescher has got to be one of the drivers. If you haven't invested any money, he has got to be. It's got to be Harvick and Buescher, the top 2 guys to take advantage of odds. And I'm biased, but I still think Blaney's got a good shot because he's at 16-1.
Yep, he just needs to survive. I mean, these have typically the first round not been great tracks for him. So if he gets through, we know what he can do at Texas. We know what he can do on a super speedway. He gets through that second round. Now he's in the round of 8, and as I keep mentioning, you've got to be good at Phoenix. That's what it's all about. Is you got to get to Phoenix, but you got to be good at Phoenix. Well, do you remember who finished second at Phoenix in the championship race last year?
Won. Yeah,
Brian Blaney. Yeah, he should have won it. Yeah. So. What goes around comes around. If he's in that situation this year, the championship, he probably wins and he takes the title. So yeah, you just got to get there.
Yep.
And I wouldn't count against him.
And again, there are good odds to take advantage of as far as the futures are concerned. And keep in mind too, when I said Buescher stealing the win, I didn't mean like he won a race late. I meant that he was winning. He's winning races that no one was expecting him to win. So he's basically thieving his way to doing something that just nobody expected. Okay, now we get to what I think are some pretty decent long shots. Harvick at 20-1, Blaney, Keselowski, Logano at 22-1, and Bowman at 30-1. This is where I put the rest of my money. Harvick, I just think I have to put money there because of the fact that the odds are still good. And he is getting close. It's like, okay, well, this has not been a great track for him with the new car. That's the thing. That it's a good track for him before that. 3 wins, 12 top 5s, almost 1,000 laps led. But since he's been with the new car, it really hasn't worked. But I'm still getting 20-1, so I'm gonna throw some money on him there. Blaney, I know this hasn't been a great track for him, like you said, but still, he does have 3 top 5s. He was 9th last week. He had 2 third-place finishes in Xfinity Series. He had 5 top 5s overall in Las Vegas. And he led 83 laps from the pole in 2017 and finished 4th. So it's not like he's been completely shut down here. And again, I'm getting 22. And in Keselowski, it's just, again, I probably wouldn't normally pick him this week because same thing, new car, hasn't been good for him, even though he has 2 wins. But Buescher keeps doing it, so you just get the feeling that Keselowski's got to be next at some point, and I don't want to not get it when he wins. And in Logano, the same way, because he has 3 wins, which is pretty good. And he won Las Vegas last year and finished 6th earlier this year, and I'm getting 22-1. Bowman, I went with him because he was 9th last year, led 107 laps. That's the best, basically the best that he's ever done at this track. He also led 63 laps in a 2019 race when he finished runner-up, and he was 3rd at Las Vegas this year and won it last year. Yep. So I just felt that these were drivers that all showed little bits of pieces where if they were to upset and win, that we'd be able to point to and say, well, okay, it was there. There was the possibility. It wasn't like he's never done anything. It's not like that driver had never won or never led a lap. So, yeah, if something happens and there's a long shot, I think those are some good ones.
Oh, for sure. And, I mean, you look at, too, with Harvick, as I kept saying, fantasy-wise, on intermediate tracks, so this is the package that they're running this weekend, 9th, 11th, 2nd, 11th, 10th, and 19th last week, but 19th wasn't, I mean, he had a top 2 car. So if you look at, I mean, he's a top 11 every race. And he was 11th in this race last year, or 9th last year, 11th in May. So he's a top 11 car. And as Buescher has shown, you just have to be there. And is he going to win on outright speed? No, but you never know what could happen with Hamlin a loose wheel and Truex a bad pit stop and Larson ges caught up in something and boom, you're there to capitalize. You just have to be there to capitalize. And he's proven these stats that he's going to be there. A really long shot that you could look at, Austin Dillon. 10th in both races in 2021. He was 11th in the playoff race there in 2020, 13th and 14th last year, and he was 10th in spring.
6 straight top 15s at Kansas.
And he's in a Chevy. So he's Kyle Busch's teammate. He can give him some help. So yeah, for where his odds are, way down there, doesn't hurt to throw a couple bucks his way.
No, I mean, yeah, let's see. For me, it's just going to be, and look, I know Larson is a favorite and he won, but it was a race where 6-7 drivers could have won last week. So until that changes, until we see like somebody favored dominate, like Denny Hamlin goes out there and dominates and wins, all right, and I'm going to think a little bit differently. But until that happens, I'm going to, especially early first playoffs races, we saw it last year. More of a shot, I think, where we could see something happen we're not expecting. So, but anyway, we have a lot of drivers covered, so that's good. So hopefully, at least one of us will get a win this week, which would be nice.
Yep, be nice.
And we have, like you said, Bristol next week, so that's awesome. One of the best, if not the best, race of the year. So hopefully, I know the new car hasn't been great at Bristol, but it's another year. So,
well, remember last year, the short track package, I think everybody can admit,
that's
why
true.
NASCAR's even admitted, has not been great. It's been probably the worst of all the tracks. The short track package has been the worst. But remember, right, Bristol, in interim of that, we had tires. Remember all the Ford tires blowing? We had the Toyota guys had all those mechanical issues. So it was a race of attrition. So that kind of gave us the excitement that the car probably was going to be lacking. And I don't know why it would be much different this year because the tire's still wide. The speeds are still fast. There's a lot of load on this car in the turns, and you have to make 500 laps with that. There could be attrition again, that could give us instead of the guys knocking each other out of the way drama, it might be the mechanical issue drama, and you're going to have to take care of your car. So that could at least supplement some of the lack of a parade per se that we'll see for a little bit, but we could have some mechanical issues that might spice things up too. So that's, again, another reason why you want to be good this weekend, because you don't know what to expect next weekend in Bristol.
And that is a Saturday night?
Saturday night, yep.
That's the last one.
Yeah, because I think the rest of the playoffs are Sunday afternoons. Yep.
All right, so there you go. Saturday night, Bristol. That's awesome. It's going to be a great night. But first things first, it's Kansas, and don't forget between now and the race on Sunday, if you want to communicate with us, quickly, make sure to click that link. And if you don't know where it is, just click where it says more. That's where the description area is. Pops up, and you see all additional links and information to stories. And so just in case you may not know about it. And also, don't forget, use the thanks icon. The thanks icon to donate to the channel is important. And maybe we'll do another live show at some point. I'm not sure when, but we'll definitely schedule another live show. I know we're going to do one with CJ, or else that's the idea. Whether we do a live show with CJ or not, the fact is, but we will do a live show, and then we've got to plan on. It won't be Saturday night, but it will be something we'll plan on. Once again, we got to think about doing the live reaction race. We have to pick one of those, so that's coming soon. You've got Texas after Bristol. Talladega might be it.
Yep, you got Talladega and
anything going on in your household that weekend? I'll
have to look. They're
October 1st.
I don't know. I know that weekend there's midget racing out at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the dirt track, but I don't think it's that Sunday. I'll have to look at the schedule.
Yeah, check it out.
100% seen it yet, but I'll have to look.
Yeah, check it out. And if you don't have anything going that day, then maybe Talladega would be a good day, because we would think, unless it ends in yellow, that it would be a reasonably good last half hour or so.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, especially for what's on the line.
What's on stake, yes. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. We'll let you know as soon as we come up with that. Eric, appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
And again, racereviewonline.net. Check it out for all those articles that we kind of cruise through, and there'll be more articles to be posted between now and then. Yep. And no Indy this week?
Nope, last one. This is the last race this week. So
there is a one this week.
Yep, Sunday. Same time as the Cup race, but yep, it's
last
the last one. But
did they name a champion yet?
Yeah, Alex Floyd just clinched it last week. So
that's over.
Kind of an exhibition race, I guess, if you want to call it, because there's nothing really.
Yeah, that stinks. But that's what happens when you don't have playoffs. So
Exactly.
All right, Eric. I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.